Good morning, and welcome to Redeemer Lutheran Church. I'm Pastor Gary Lodeholt. Perhaps you didn't notice, but today's episode of Pastor Gary Live is the 901st. So as I thought about kicking off another 100 of these daily meditations, I wanted something that was meaningful, but also a little bit light and amusing too. After thinking about a couple of ideas and rejecting them, I noticed on my bookshelf a book I have entitled Just Build the Ark and the Animals Will Come by David Heller. The subtitle explains the premise of the book clearly. Kids talk about those amazing Bible stories. What Heller did was simply to ask kids some questions about some well-known Bible stories and then record their answers. So this week I'm going to share some of those and reflect on them a bit as well. We'll start today with Heller asking children about the very beginning, when God created the world. Andrew, age 12, commented, "In the beginning, God scratched his gray hair, rolled up his sleeves, and decided to get down to work to make himself a nice world." Well, I don't know about scratching his gray hair, but that's really not too bad a theology to think about God rolling up God's sleeves and getting down to work. I guess what I mean by that was that there was an intentionality to the whole thing. God didn't just accidentally make the world one day. There's an old movie from the 1920s called The Green Pastures, and it tells one view of God and God's people. The opening scene is in heaven, and there's a big picnic going on with feasting and singing, celebrating, and people being offered 10-cent cigars. When God arrives, one of the angels says to God that the only problem is that they have run out of firmament for the little cherubs' sandwiches, as if firmament is something like mayonnaise. God expresses frustration that they are always running out of firmament, and so he's going to do a miracle, and he makes a whole lot of firmament. In fact, too much. The angels say, What are we going to do with all this firmament? Where will we store it?" And so God does another miracle, forming the firmament into the world. Now, that's not what happened. The earth and all that is didn't happen as an accident. God was intentional about it and made us to be in relationship with God and each other. As Robert, age 9, commented, "God created heaven and earth, but that didn't make him too busy to spend time with his children." Perhaps a young man named Bart had overheard his parents paying bills one day when he said, "God made the moon and the light. Then the electric company took over, but that wasn't until many years later." And maybe that one points us to the amazing mystery of our universe and the wonder of how it all works. God doesn't pay an electric bill, and yet the light still shines. What a marvel. Finally, for today, as these children considered the creation of everything, Terry, age 7, commented, "In the beginning, God was lonely, so he made people to play with. You could talk to them better than you could talk to dinosaurs." Well, I suspect that if God wanted to talk to dinosaurs, God wouldn't have a problem doing it. But actually, Terry hit on something pretty important and that we've already hinted at. God made our world and the people in it in order to be in relationship with us. We sometimes forget that while God is God, God is also a person. God has personality and enjoys and longs for a close, intimate relationship with us. That's why I think prayer is at its best when we move beyond simply spouting off a wish list of what we want God to do for us and move into prayer that is more like spending time with God, sharing our days, our hopes, our longings, our joys, much like a child shares their thoughts and days with their parent at dinner or bedtime. That close, loving, sharing relationship is what both we and God desire. It's hard for me to say God was lonely without us, but I'm sure we are lonely without God. Thanks for watching, and remember to let this day belong to God.